when I grew up, just playing outside and doing sports with my brother was very normal. And so, and then that allowed me, I played all kinds of sports, and I don't know if our 15-year-old superstar's here, but I found my one thing that was bicycling. Spent the last, gosh, I don't know, forever, racing and riding my bike. I raced my bicycle for 23 years, 4 years as a professional cyclist. And in all that time I was riding my bicycle, I had lots and lots of time to think about things. I was in that flow state. And I was always fascinated with the concept of time distance calculation. And I think for a lot of the endurance athletes here, math is just always going through my head. If I do this average speed, where I'm going to go. And it just, I took it all for granted. And also about one other important fact is in those 23 years, I took 1 year where I rode my bicycle around the world and kind of circumnavigated the globe, and I did it with a group, and it was a really just amazing experience. I did it when I was 23, and so I kind of had that, and it gave me this fascination of the world and what I could, just all the different places you could see, and I fell in love with the world, and I'm also doing all this time distance calculation, and I thought, okay. And actually, for those of you who saw Mike Trevino and I met about 10 years ago, and coincidentally enough, we're both here. But the other really awesome concept to me when I'm doing all this exercise is, like, where could I go, like, with all this exercise? And for those of you who've ridden on, run on stationary trainers, or ridden on stationary trainers, where could you go? And so I was running with Mike this morning up the mountains, which I don't like to do because I'm a cyclist, but I did it anyway. I said, Mike, how long do you think, how many miles do you think you've ridden in your lifetime? He said, well, I know. He's like, I've ridden 500,000 miles. I'm like, wow, like, that is crazy, 500,000 miles. If you think about that and what you're going to see here, we go into schools and basically challenge them to exercise around the world, 25,000 miles. So if you think about Mike's ridden around the world, the oceans and the continents, 20 times. That's crazy, absolutely crazy. It's a fascinating concept to me. So this was when I turned 40 several years ago. I had 2 young kids, and I thought, what can I do to give back? I had some success in business, and I took a year off to start a nonprofit and do something about sort of this health and fitness crisis that I saw happening with kids. And I thought, how could I take all the experience and good fortune that I've had in my life? Most people won't be able to ride their bicycle around the world. They won't be able to go race, or be a professional athlete. But how could I share that with kids in a way that could motivate them to at least experience some piece of that? So what you're going to see, and I'm really excited for you to see this because it's a lot of fun. In our schools, we have just crazy participation rates. It's like one big 4-month pep rally for schools. They really get into it, and it's very fulfilling for me because I didn't know what was going to happen when I started it. So it's called the Virtual World Race. You can probably, from the background I gave you, begin to piece some things together. And it's all based on a technology platform to get kids exercising. It's online software, and we go into schools, and as I said, we basically challenge them to exercise as a team, their school as a team, 25,000 miles within usually about a 3 to 4 month period. So it's an event. It's big, it's exciting to them. And when they start, they have, they're competing as a team, but at the same time, they all have individual goals that make up to that team goal. So we kind of capture both team-based competition and then also individual-based competition. So if I were to come here, and you're seeing sort of a screen demo here, because we don't have great internet access everywhere, but I would come in, I see a home page. If I'm a child, I come in, I look here, I have a username and password. I enter in the username and password, and here I'm going to enter in my username and password. And immediately I'm going to get to a dashboard. And every child has a cool dashboard like this, and along the one side you see a calendar, which defaults to today's date. You can also see days I exercised and days I didn't. The ones are highlighted in yellow. And I've probably been a little lazy in the last 2 weeks in entering in my mileage. And then below, I have how many minutes I did it and what exercise that I did. And so one thing, I've talked to a number of people here around the activities. When I first, being sort of, having been an elite athlete, I was somewhat closed-minded, and I thought, I'm only going to make this about lifetime sports, and I want kids to be healthy and active. And what I ended up very quickly doing is opening it up to every single sport, because the whole goal was, I don't care whether we create the next, super Karen triathlete, or whether I encourage a young girl who may not be as athletically inclined to walk her dog around the block every morning before school. I mean, to me, both of those are as rewarding, and we've seen the program do that, which is very fulfilling. But then I can go ahead and add my activity. I'll show you how that works in a second. But I have my goal, and here I've kind of, I'm a bit of an unfair participant, but I accomplished my goal. I can see where my team's goal is. And then I can see, in this case, I'm a super user, and I can be in different races. I can see where my team's race is, where my mileage is in that, and I can see what I've done kind of this week and to date. The other thing we did is we created last year we introduced videos, and the cool thing about the videos was we wanted to be able to create sort of a virtual motivation platform for the kids. And so last year we've had professional athletes come in and give a motivational video. We've pulled some really interesting, like with last year with the Olympics, some cool videos like that for the kids. And the other really neat thing we do is we can tie, I can load in before the race starts, I can load in 10 different videos that are triggered to play as they hit different percentage completion points, so they don't see the same video all the time. In this case, right, they're going to see a Garmin cross-country skiing one. I think we were doing something around the Olympics. So then you'll see here in the activity, right, I can select the activity. We put a lot of thought into this, and for the kids, just making it really simple and choosing, like for all of us, we're probably down to the nanosecond of what we exercised. Kids don't care, right? They're doing it in 15-minute blocks, and that was really easy for them to figure out. We got a lot of feedback from schools on that. And then next, we put all kinds of activities in here. You'll see bar yogas in here, jump roping, anything they do. And for the technology folks in here, it's really simple what we do in the background. We take the time, the activity, we run a certain algorithm around the activity, and it translates that into mileage. And that's what I'm most excited to show you about. So I can't tell if that's showing clearly for you or not, but when you, the neatest thing about this is we've, who in here is in the technology field? Anybody? You are? Yeah, I know you are. So what we've done in the background here is when we change the courses up every year, and because I love mapping in the world and all that stuff, this is one big KML file. And a KML file is one big waypoint file. You could take a motorcycle and ride a motorcycle around this course. It's a real course. And in this case, we're doing sort of a Southern Hemisphere course. And when I put my time in, it moves my team's marker in real time on that course around the world. So if I said I went however many miles, right, my team's marker moves. I then, down at the bottom here, I can see where my team is. I can see, the first is I can see in my team, and this would be my particular team, and I'm on the parents' team. But if I was a student, it would be my classroom. I can see how I rank against all the other kids in my classroom. And then in the race leader, I can see how I'm doing against everybody else in the race, what my ranking is. And at first we were trying to be a little sensitive about the competition aspect, and when we introduced that last year, it took off like wildfire. The kids loved it, and I was pleased to see the results of the competition, and participating myself, it was very addictive. So in the mapping though, and this is kind of what's cool, as you can see the view, in this mapping, I think I've got a view here, I can choose any kinds of map, like I can see it any kind of maps I want, and there are all these mapping profiles back here. I can then see my, as you saw before, here we go. I can then point and I can say, and I can click on my team's marker and I can say, hey, right, where am I in the world? And they're going to say, well, here you are, right? Your team's 1,300 miles into the race. You're 5% around the world. Let's go ahead and see where we are. And it'll say, okay, hey, you're in Oklahoma. You're in the United States, North America. Let me see where I am right where I actually am. And it'll take me right to Google Street View. And this is awesome. So we were running the race during the tsunami in Japan. And ironically enough, at that time, we had the race going through Japan and right along the route where the tsunami hit. And the kids were able to go in and see what that area looked like before the tsunami hit. And obviously, they had pictures after the tsunami. So as you're probably kind of putting together in your mind, we've had as many teachers and administrators and librarians get excited about the program as we have physical education folks. And that's kind of been the winning formula, because I was having a conversation with Jeff earlier this morning, and one of the things I've learned in working with the schools over the last 4 years is if you come in heavy, they have so much pressure on them with No Child Left Behind, right? Standards of learning, those things coming down. The teachers are just maxed out. And everybody cares about health and fitness. They all know they need to care about it. They're getting pressure from parents. They're getting pressure from the government. But at the same time, they have no bandwidth to deal with it. And so if you come in with anything and it adds any teacher overhead, they will not talk to you. And they don't want to hear about it. And so the nice thing about this is I don't need anything from any teacher. All I need is the principal to be behind it, a champion to be named in the school, and we've had those champions be librarians. We've had them be teachers who happen to be runners. We've had them be the actual physical education teacher, if the school's lucky enough these days to have one. In the city of Richmond, in our city of Richmond schools, they share PE teachers. It's awful, right? I mean, it's like the kids are lucky to get PE, once a week for 30 minutes. So this is a really cool feature of being able to go into Google. And then I have another view, and as you see, I've just gone in this little view here, and I can see, hey, what did I do? What have I done cumulatively? And I can see all that stuff just if I want to see a cumulative view. And you can see here, we even do things like yard work. And actually, that came in from requests from teachers. They're like, hey, right, I'm working around the yard. Can I get some credit? Like, sure, right? Okay, let's do it. We'll run a little algorithm and translate yard work into mileage. And so then now I've flipped, and so one thing that is also interesting, and this is sort of my technology background, is, and hopefully what you've seen is things have to be easy to use. And what I do for a living in my real job is I help companies implement really user-friendly technology applications. And one thing about this too, though, is you want to figure out how can you give it to schools, and it doesn't require a lot of work to have the schools do this. So we have a whole back-end administrative platform where the schools can pull all the reports they want. They can see a quick snapshot view and get some ad hoc reports like this, where they can see, hey, let me see all my kids. Let me see just a quick snapshot of how the grades are doing against each other, and I can see kind of what we've done this week, and they can pull that once a week, and they usually make announcements once a week and let everybody know, and gets the kids excited. The other thing too is we have all this data, and so I can see all the data from all the schools and all the participation in the database, and then the school can actually generate a report that spits out into an Excel spreadsheet, and they can see everything. So after 3 months, they can see exactly what all the participation data was for their school, which is a really neat feature. So I wanted to share the last point I wanted to share with you on sort of why does this work and what have we found? What are the kind of lessons learned over the last 4 years in doing this? Is one, and I hit on it earlier, was the team and individual competition was huge. The fact that people feel like they're part of something bigger, it was a huge motivator that we kind of learned and saw that the fact that their friends were doing it, and the fact that they were a part of a team, and the fact that their mileage counting towards their team was a huge motivational factor, because you have to remember, when I first launched it, I didn't have the individual scoring. We kind of did it, but we did it in the background. We didn't make it public on the site. And so that was a huge motivator that we saw. And then we added the individual competition, and that was sort of like steroids for it, right? It was like, oh, now they really got excited about it. And the other is when Jeff was up here, he was talking about you have to make things cool. This is cool for kids. The fact that they're trying to make it around the world. I mean, we do a lot of questions when we do the kickoff, and some of the kids don't even know how far it is around the world, right? So, hey, it's 25,000 miles. Oh my gosh, that's like huge. And most of the kids, like when you say, like, we break down all the math and like, do you think you can exercise 25,000 miles? And they're like, no, that's so far. We can't do it. We're like, oh, okay, well, how many kids are there in your school? And then we kind of break down the math, and we break it down into how many hours each child needs to exercise each week. And what's crazy is when you break it down, when you break down a goal, and it ends up being only like an hour and a half of exercise a week. If every kid just exercised for an hour and a half a week, they would all make it and succeed. The other huge thing, this is the big goal for me, and it's the one thing that I would judge this as a success, is if I'm in a school and if for 4 months we encourage kids to exercise for each day and a little bit each day, whatever the activity is, and the race ends, and at the end of the race we've introduced a healthy habit that continues because of the experience, we've succeeded. And I don't care what that exercise is. And that's the most important thing, I think, with 4-3-1 and what we're trying to do is if you can get kids at an early age and you can instill those healthy habits, by the time they start getting into the later years of middle school and high school, you have lost your ability to influence them. And it's all the feedback we've gotten from the schools. The other neat thing is we do align this to the academic curriculum. So like in Virginia, it's all mapped to the Virginia Standards of Learning. And this is really, really important because anytime you can come in with a program that not only looks at fitness but can be aligned to STEM, it's huge. And one is some of the teaching professionals in here probably know, one of the hardest concepts in math to teach kids is time-distance calculations. It is it's just this bizarre notion to wrap your head around, and as you can see, this is inherent in everything you're experiencing with this. And then the last one, which I hit on, is it's just highly scalable. As the technologists in the room know, right? Everything here is built in the Amazon's cloud. We can deploy it and set schools up really quickly, and it's lightweight for the schools. They don't have to do anything except say, we want to participate, launch a kickoff, make a brief announcement each week, get the kids excited, and the kids take off with it.